Blakesley, Calderon, Canella, Corbett, Correa, De Leon, DeSaulnier, Dutton, Emerson, Evans, Fuller, Gaines, Hancock, Harmon, Hernandez, Huff, Kehoe, LaMalfa, Leno, Liu, Lowenthal, Negrete McLeod, Padilla, Tapley, Price, Rubio, Smidian, Steinberg, Strickland, Vargas, Walters, Wolk, Wright, Weiland, Yee. Mr. President, we are lacking a quorum.
All Senate members, please report to the Senate chambers. Guests beyond the rail and in the gallery, please rise. We will be led in prayer this morning by our chaplain, Rabbi Mona Alfie, after which we will be led in the pledge by Senator Leno.
I think that was the call to worship we just heard. Good morning.
Good morning.
The great American poet, John Russell Lowell, wrote on his theology of life. He said, "God is in all that liberates and lifts, in all that humbles, sweetens, and consoles. The divine presence is manifest in the world around us in so many simple ways. A kind word from a friend, a smile from a stranger, a hand held out to support someone in need. God's presence surrounds us, waiting for us to discover it. May the Holy One of blessing enable us to be messengers of all that liberates and lifts, and to see all that humbles, sweetens, and consoles. May this be God's will. Amen.
Privileges of the floor. Senator Corbett.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I rise with great pride this morning to celebrate the Republic of India, an occasion that has been celebrated for many years, over 20 years in my district. This year marks the 62nd anniversary of the Republic of India, the largest and the longest democracy in the world. India adopted its democratic government on the 26th of January, 1950. And today we not only celebrate the adoption of democracy, but the establishment of the Indian Constitution. I'm also proud to represent one of the largest Indo-American populations in the state of California. And India is one of California's strongest economic partners. California exports more goods to the country of India than any state in the nation, $2.2 billion per year. So, members, I just wanted to call attention to a very, very important celebration in my district and thank the Indo-Americans for their very active participation in our California economy. If you travel to my district, you will see Indo-American leaders in the area of high-tech, biotech, healthcare, teaching, just about anything you can think of. Many venture capitalists are of Indo-American descent. So, members, thank you so much for joining me and celebrating the anniversary of India Republic Day, and we wish the Indo-Americans a great celebration this day. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Senator, for your comments. Senator Evans.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Mr. President, and I want to compliment Ms. Corbett. Not only did she wear the ethnic dress, but she also wore the right color, because today is Wear Red Day in honor of the American Heart Association, who is providing support and awareness for women and communities to fight heart disease. Heart disease is the #1 killer of women, taking the life of 1 in 3 women every year. So for all of us here, heart disease has touched you or someone that you love. So help save a woman's life today by making everyone aware of these statistics. 90% of women have 1 or more risk factors for developing heart disease. 80% of cardiac events in women may be prevented if they make the right choices for their hearts. So this is a preventable disease as long as we are all educated and aware. I also want to note that today the Legislative Women's Caucus, the American Heart Association, and Sutter Health are sponsoring blood pressure screenings, which is a good indicator of your heart health, in room 115 from 8:30 to 11:30 this morning. And there are also heart-healthy snacks and literature on heart disease available. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Senator Lowenthal.
If I might present a resolution at this moment. Mr. President, members, today we have the opportunity to thank a public servant and who has been a true champion of affordable housing for the past 4.5 years. Lynn Jacobs has been the director of the Department of Housing and Community Development. Shortly, just before Lynn arrived here in Sacramento in 2006, Californians passed and approved the largest housing bond in the nation's history, $2.85 billion, as we know, which was in Proposition 1C. Lynn Jacobs dedicated herself and her department to the prompt and effective implementation of these bond funds. Combined with other resources, HCD has funded over 100,000 affordable housing opportunities throughout the state during her tenure. During her watch, HCD successfully developed and gained approval for the nation's first green building code. She also actively participated in the prompt implementation of AB 32 and SB 375 to promote sustainable developmental patterns. But perhaps most importantly, Lynn Jacobs will be remembered for her diligent and tireless efforts to promote a permanent revenue source to support the state's affordable housing programs. Because of her efficient administration, HCD will award the last of the Proposition 1C bond funds this year, and there is no replacement funding, members, to keep these programs running. They have spent, Lynn and her staff have spent countless hours touring the state to solicit ideas for potential revenue sources, and then spent countless more hours researching these. While the permanent source for affordable housing is not yet a reality, because of Lynn's efforts, California is much closer to achieving a sustainable revenue stream to meet our overwhelming need for affordable housing. For this, I wish you to join me in thanking Lynn Jacobs for her service to California and extend to her her best wishes as she moves on to the next chapter in her life. Thank you. The outgoing director just say a few words.
With no objection?
Thank you so much, Senator Lowenthal. This is a great honor for me. It was a wonderful experience and honor to work for the citizens of California to promote better building and more affordable housing. And I think every member of the Senate has been instrumental in making sure that their districts are well served by housing in their districts and funding from HCD. And I look forward to working with you in the future from the private sector side. So thank you so much for this wonderful honor.
Members, joining me in presenting this to Lynn is Norma Torres, the chair of Assembly Housing.
I'd like to recognize former Senator Benoit on the floor. Senator Strickland, your mic is up.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, this Sunday will be the 100th birthday of our former governor of California, former President Ronald Reagan. As someone who represents the Reagan Freeway, the Reagan Library, the Reagan Ranch, and the Reagan Center, and as a Reagan Republican, I hope that all Californians can look at the accomplishments of our former governor and former president. As someone of German descent, it took a leader like President Reagan to go right before the Berlin Wall and ask Gorbachev to tear down the wall. And President Reagan's leadership spread freedom throughout the world. There's millions of people right now across the world that live in freedom because of the leadership of President Ronald Reagan. And when Ronald Reagan took over as president, America was kind of down. And he brought inspiration back to the American people and moved this country forward, what was at the time the largest peacetime expansion in our nation's history through marginal tax cuts and putting people back to work. I think it's important this Sunday that all of us recognize the leadership that one person can make a difference in the future of this nation and this world and this country. And God bless Ronald Reagan. Thank you.
Senator Wyman.
I'd also like to join in commending the 100th birthday, would have been the 100th birthday of Ronald Reagan. And there's one thing that Senator Strickland alluded to that I think is perhaps in some ways the most important gift that he gave us, and that was to renew faith and belief in ourselves as Americans. And that was not a partisan issue. He was the one who initiated during the State of the Union address having an ordinary American in the audience pointed out to demonstrate what a wonderful country we have. And whatever deficiencies we have, that we should be proud of this country. And for that, I think we should, it's honor to celebrate his 100th birthday.
Senator McLeod.
I hope that everybody is listening, and I too celebrate Ronald Reagan. And as NPR said this morning, that Ronald Reagan was a realist. He believed what he was doing, and he understood that at the time that he was governor, that he had to raise $6 billion in taxes. So I hope you all do the same thing.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Amalfa. Please, House, come to order.
I rise also in recognition of Ronald Reagan here. And yes, Senator Negrete McLeod, some people make mistakes occasionally too, even President Reagan, Governor Reagan. But he served as an inspiration for, I think, an entire generation. Certainly was one for me to even get involved in the political process. I remember as about a 20-year-old back in Butte College up here in Butte County, that the posters were up of that guy in the cowboy hat all around the school there during that election there. And it really served as an inspiration for me that we can do positive things for our country with a positive attitude that he always had with his sunny disposition. And so for us, I think we're all blessed to have him as our governor and our president during that time. And my heroes have always been cowboys.
Any other motions? Any other privileges of the floor? Senator Steinberg.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. If it's all right, I'd like to take up file item 1, confirmations.
You may.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. These are the nominations of John Menchaca and Robert Weissenmiller. Mr. Menchaca is up for confirmation for a seat on the California Lottery Commission. Mr. Weissenmiller, as the member and actually the chair of the California Energy Commission. Both these appointees were heard yesterday in the Rules Committee, 4-0 votes. I think very well regarded, both of them. I would urge an aye vote here on the floor. Thank you.
Any discussion or debate? Senator Blakeslee.
I wanted to rise in support of unanimous approval. In particular, wanted to add my voice and praise to the selection of Robert Weissenmiller, someone with enormous technical expertise, serving now in a role that will require that expertise, given the new challenges we're facing with our renewable portfolio standard, ensuring we're incenting and also allowing the most innovative technologies to move quickly onto the grid and into the mainstream.
Any further discussion or debate? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. Aye. Berryhill. Aye. Blakeslee. Aye. Calderon. Aye. Cannella. Aye. Corbett. Aye. Correa. Aye. De Leon. DeSaulnier. Aye. Dutton. Aye. Emerson. Aye. Evans. Aye. Fuller. Aye. Gaines. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. Aye. Kehoe. Aye. Lamalfa. Aye. Leno. Aye. Liu. Lowenthal. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price.
Aye.
Aye. Rubio. Aye. Smidian. I. Steinberg. I. Strickland. I. Vargas. I. Walters. I. Wolk. I. Wright. I. Wyland. I. Yee. Yee, aye.
Ayes 36, no 0. The appointments are confirmed. Okay, back to our file. Messages from the governor will be deemed read. Messages from the assembly will be deemed read. Reports of committees will be deemed read. Motions, resolutions, notices. Senator Gaines. Senator Gaines.
Yeah, thank you very much. I did want to take an opportunity for a journey in memory with regards to the death of Sam LaCara.
Excuse me, Mr. Gaines. Maybe have some order in the House, please.
The principal of Schnell School in Placerville in my district, who was gunned down yesterday, and leaves his wife Lisa and 3 daughters, was senseless. We don't know all the details. We know that he was a great principal at his school. He was well liked and loved in that school. Did a great job reaching out to fellow employees in the school. And so I would just like to adjourn with our thoughts and prayers for the family, and that we would do everything that we can in our community to reach out to that family during a very difficult time, not only now, but in the future. Thank you.
Thank you for your words, Mr. Gaines. If you'll bring the name to the desk so that we may properly memorialize. Any other motions? Senator Dutton?
Yeah, just an announcement to my caucus. We'll have a brief Republican caucus after session today up in the room 305.
Thank you. First reading of bills. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 165 by Senator LaMalfa, enacting to elections.
Bills are deemed read. If there's no other business. Okay, we've got one announcement being made of a committee meeting.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Hancock has the floor.
Thank you. I just want to announce that Senate Budget Sub 5 will meet in room 113, I think immediately upon adjournment of the Republican caucus.
Senator DeSaulnier.
Same for Budget Sub 3. We'll meet 4203 as soon as the Republicans adjourn from their caucus.
Any other announcements? If there's no other business, Senator Steinberg, the desk is clear.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I want to welcome to the floor Supervisor, former Senator John Benoit. Welcome to you, sir. How are you? Come back to the floor in early March, please. And yeah, we need you. Okay. Just kidding. Anyways, welcome to you. Members, we have 2 weeks left, if I'm correct, Senator Leno, of pretty intensive budget subcommittee hearings. And we will then, be ready to hopefully bring product to the floor and certainly be ready to begin, conference committee soon thereafter. And the weeks are passing. I appreciate everybody's involvement and work, and now is the time to focus and look to get this done. So we will resume session Monday at, I believe, 2 o'clock. Wish everyone a nice weekend, and may your team, whichever it is, win. Thank you.
Senator Simitian.
Thank you, Mr. President. For purposes of announcement, the Budget Subcommittee number 2 on Resources, Environmental Protection, Energy and Transportation will meet at 9:45. 9:45 for Budget Sub 2, please.
Thank you for that announcement. Any other announcements?
Thank you,
Rubio.
members. In Sub 4 will be meeting upon adjournment of the Republican caucus in room 112 to take up the controversial RDA issue. So I know there's a lot of electeds in the building. It will be upon adjournment of the Republican caucus in room 112.
Senator Smithian.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to clarify, Budget Subcommittee number 2 will meet at 9:45 or upon completion of the Republican caucus, whichever comes later.
Thank you. Any other announcements? The Senate will be in recess until 3:30, at which time the adjournment motion will be made. We will reconvene Monday at 2 p.m. Senate stands in recess.